Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Simon Davies with me here today. Simon is the Executive Director of Teen Cancer America. I'm excited to hear about his story, his connection with the WHO and how all this started. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I will make one early correction.
Oh,
I just retired, so I've been
okay.
Executive Director of Teen Cancer America. I'm now on the board of Teen Cancer America, but we do have a new Chief Executive, Shannon Sullivan, who's great. So I've handed the baton over.
Okay, great. Can you give us a history and background of sort of your career and how you got involved in Teen Cancer America?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I suppose I always call myself as having, been in the social care trade, as it were, for as long as I can remember. So when I
Okay,
started work, I was actually working with people with learning disabilities and
okay,
mental health problems, and that was a big part of my early career. And I got into management and managing a lot of housing and other type facilities across London. And then I was looking for a change, and I saw this opportunity that arose up with a new charity called Teenage Cancer Trust, which I'd never heard of. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. And I was fortunate that they were looking for somebody who had experience in management as opposed to somebody that knew everything there was to know about cancer, because I sure
right.
didn't have that experience. But I got that job, and it was I was their first chief executive, very small organization of just 5 people, and they were and I just caught on straight away to what they were trying to do, which was basically bridge the gap between pediatric and adult cancer.
Right.
And they were doing work in the UK. We expanded that substantially. By the time I left, we had a couple of hundred staff, and we
Oh,
were
wow.
an organization that was delivering services all across the UK, and it really sort of changed the system. I'll talk a bit more about why we do what we do in a minute, but and then
And
this was
this was just called Teen Cancer, what was it?
that was called Teenage Cancer Trust.
Trust. Okay. Or
Trust is
and
a
it
familiar term in England for charity.
right. So it was the UK initial branch of Teen Cancer.
Exactly. And the principal kind of ambassadors of that charity was the rock band The Who, was Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend. And Roger Daltrey, who's the most active of the two, kept saying to me, I really think we should do something in America, because their motivation for doing this thing was to give back to young people. They felt that The Who's success and everything that they had got over the years was really down to young people buying their records, coming to their shows,
Right.
and they owed as much to American youth as they did to British.
Okay.
They were very successful over here. So Roger was very keen to get me to expand Teenage Cancer Trust into America. And I said, I can't do that, Roger, because it'll absorb all our time, but I'll help you set up a charity over there. Why not set up an American charity? It should be an American charity anyway, not an expanded British charity. So that's when I helped him set up Teen Cancer America. And then within a year, it was obvious that they didn't really couldn't find anybody really to run it.
Hmm.
And so I then suggested to Roger that maybe I'd come over for a year and get it set up.
And this was when?
2013. And
Okay. And for
so
our listeners, that's 12 years ago.
that's 12 years ago. Yeah. And so I came over to LA to establish it. And it's been, it has been really, really successful. And I need to give you a bit of background about, what is it about teenagers and young adults, because we work with that age group, which is the teenagers and through into young adult years. And the average age of a pediatric hospital is 6, and the average age of an adult hospital is 60.
Right.
So everything is very much geared around around those sorts of age groups. And so the group that misses out in the middle of that is the teenagers, especially the older teenagers in the pediatric hospitals.
Yeah.
They're, a 6 foot 16-year-old in amongst the
Right.
kids. Or in the adult hospitals where you maybe have a 25-year-old who is in amongst everybody else who's 60. And so
Right.
um,
That the emotional support and everything and the environment are really, really important.
yeah, the environment is wrong because, kids' hospitals are designed around Disney and little kids, and adult hospitals are designed around much older people. The social support and the psychological support is not geared up for this age group, either in pediatric care or in adult care. And on top of that, they haven't been surviving as well in terms of their outcomes and survival as either younger or older people. They haven't made as many advances, and we think the reasons for that is because there hasn't been enough research and attention paid to this
Right.
specific group. And they're different. I mean, the difference, to work out what medication in the pediatric world to give a 6 foot 16-year-old when
Right.
all the drugs that you've been developing have been developed around people between the age of 6 and 10 type of thing. Or
Sure.
likewise, if you're working in the adult world, they've all been tested on people with a metabolism which is as slow as mine.
Right.
And yet, for a 22-year-old, they're still raging hormonally and very different physiologically.
Yep.
So they just don't have this specialism around them. So what Teenage Cancer Trust did in the UK and what Teen Cancer America does here in America is to create these specialist programs. We also do facilities, and we educate and support both pediatric and adult specialists to come together to create these special programs, especially for these young people. And
Okay.
that's what we've been doing. We started off with zero in America, and now there's about 65 hospitals that have developed
Nice.
programs all across America. We probably need about a couple of hundred to make sure every young person has access to one. But in 10, 12 years, that's maybe a third of where we need to get to.
Sure. And I'm sure it's the growth speeds up over time as you develop the systems and the programs.
Yeah, and I think, as the more that we get, and obviously we've been able to get them in some of the biggest and the best and the most advanced hospitals in the world. So MD Anderson, Memorial Sloan Kettering,
Okay.
but these are all famous places. They've developed programs, and of course, what that breeds is, people pay attention to that, and therefore more
Mhm.
hospitals want to do it. So the speed at which we could develop, actually, we could probably go about 10 times faster than we do if we had the money.
Okay.
You can only do so many at a time. But, as we increase our fundraising and as people with prosperity, like the Phoenix clients, who think about where they might want to,
Right.
make some sort of tax incentive donations, then
Hmm.
we're a good charity and we provide some amazing work. So that's kind of the story. And I wanted to, when we at some point as we're talking, I want to share a special Phoenix story with you because I think it says everything about why we do what we do.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. You mentioned some facilities as well as the programs been able to implement and coordinate with different organizations. Is there like a particular flagship facility somewhere?
We've got a few that we've developed very very well. I think one of the best in the country is actually in Cleveland, where
Okay.
one family invested heavily in the Rainbow Babies Children's Hospital there, and they created a fantastic facility. But we've got a great one that we developed over in Tennessee at the main hospital there. That's escaping my mind at the moment.
In Nashville?
Yeah, Nashville, Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Great facility there. I mean, when we build a facility, we basically create a teen zone. So, you know,
Right.
we're used to seeing, as I say, that sort of pediatric area with lots of Disney stuff. Well, you imagine a teen zone, it's wired for sound, it's got music, it's got tech, it's got computers, it's got PlayStations, it's got all the things that young people would want in it.
Right.
It's a place where they can connect together. And to be honest, as much as I believe in all of the science and the research and the amazing staff that are important to these programs, it's really critical that these young people can support each other. Roger Daltrey always used to say, there's no better psychological support for a young person with cancer than another young person." And we all
Right.
know that, we've all been teenagers. Your peer group becomes
Right. Oh,
more
yeah.
important than your
You need to fit in. You need to be with your tribe.
That's what it's all about. And so, being able to meet other young people who are going through the same thing, as opposed to being incredibly isolated amongst
Right.
small children or isolated amongst old people.
Right.
You can get young people coming together and
Right. You're feeling isolated enough just being ill.
well, exactly. And they become stronger in themselves. They become much more resourceful and advocate better for themselves. The isolated teens tend to become much more depressed and not so responsive. But the ones that are in an environment where they're together, they kind
Right.
of toughen up. They take the doctors and the nurses on when they need to. It's impressive to see them. Uh,
Right.
I remember one hospital in particular where the young people got together and they told the consultant that this is the chief guy, he used to come round and see them. They said, "We don't want you to come and see us until after 11 o'clock in the morning. We don't want you coming out and waking us up at 7 in
Right.
the morning." That's not what young people do. They don't, they sleep over till 11, and we don't want to see you till 11. And then we can have a conversation with you because you're not going to get anything out of us at 7 in the morning.
Right.
And they did. They changed the routine and they had a much better working relationship between the
Okay. Excellent.
consultants.
Excellent. What's been one of the biggest challenges working at Teen Cancer America
Um, you know,
or the Teen Cancer Trust?
sure, for sure. Fundraising is always a challenge, and you
Okay.
have to be creative about that. And I think, like any business, um, the trick of it is to diversify your income. To have your income coming from different sources,
Right.
and not be too reliant. We get an awful lot of help from the WHO when they do a tour and they're about to come up to an American tour. We get $2 per ticket from the WHO,
Oh,
which is
wow.
which is wonderful. But you don't want that to be your only source of income. You want
Sure.
to diversify. You want to have money coming from people donating through their wills or through events or through their estate management. So all sorts of income is there. But also, I think on the other side of it, on the service delivery, when I first came to America, I I went to 40 cities in the first year.
Oh, wow.
And to be honest, I was a door-to-door salesman. I mean, that's what I was doing. I was knocking on the doors of hospitals
Okay.
saying, "This is what we do. I think you should do it." And of course, many of them could easily have just said, "No, we don't want to do this." They don't have to do it. There's no requirement. There's nothing from, the National Cancer Institute or the FDA to say you must do this thing. They would have to want to do it. So my
Right.
was sales at that time. So I went to every city, to every major hospital that I could, using any contact I had, just like you do for networking. Find a person that will listen to you. And I used to say that, my only job in that first meeting was to be able to go away and have them be prepared to have me come back. That's all I wanted.
Okay. Right.
Then if I came back, I knew I could have another conversation and we could get somewhere. And I'm pleased to say that I had, not everywhere took it on, but I got some really good reception from some of the big and important hospitals, and that's
Okay.
the difference. So yeah, those two things really. I mean, raising the money for sure, but you have to still convince people, especially when you're asking them to change the way they work. This is pediatric and adult cancer coming together is like an awkward merger. They're completely different. They've been set up in silos for years and years.
Right. Okay.
They've never communicated together. And so we're saying come together and work differently because we
Right.
want both their expertise. There are pediatric
Sure.
cancers,
Sure.
adult cancers. They get mixed up in this age group, and you want the very best of them both to come together.
Sure. You
But you
have
want to
some
make,
barriers to in their from maybe their training and their
yeah,
preconceived ideas of what their role is, and
yeah.
you get to company. So you overcome those, I imagine, by I imagine with the patients, right?
I mean,
And
the patients are a big part of it. And so if you can get patients who are well enough to advocate for themselves and to say this is what they want, then that is very helpful. But obviously, a lot of them are very ill at the time and, they don't have a lot of energy for doing things like that. I think I always say that the biggest obstacles to overcome in any health system, and it's not peculiar to America, is there's two things. One is people and their egos, and the other is systems. So
okay,
what you have is people that you want to convince them this is a good thing for them to do, and they will want to do it and get over any ego that they might have about, they've always been a pediatrician and they don't want to start working, with adult world or vice versa. And then systems, you're asking a hospital to change its system,
hmm,
to treat a group of people differently from how they've ever been treated before, which can be awkward and can involve
right,
them having to make some investments or
yeah,
changes,
some barriers, and
management changes.
yeah,
So people and systems are probably what get in the way.
okay, okay,
I'm pleased to say that, the other great thing about America, in the UK, I would say that the UK is a national health system, and it's like it's like turning a tanker. It takes forever to turn,
right,
to turn a tanker, and it takes forever to turn the national health system. So you have to convince everybody at the top it's a good idea. You have to think it's great, and get all the changes made, get it all lined up, and then everybody will turn together because they don't do anything unless the whole system changes.
right,
Whereas here in America, you don't have any kind of national health system really in the same way because everybody's an independent organization and there are some rules and regulations, but mostly they can make up their own choices. And so on a hospital by hospital basis, much easier to work in America
okay,
because if a hospital wants to do it, they can do it. They don't have to wait for somebody up top, up in the sky to tell them that's okay. They'll do it. Downside of that is that they can tell you to go away and don't come back, so
mm,
you can, that's the challenge.
right,
But once you get important organizations like MD Anderson and Memorial Sloan Kettering and Dana-Farber saying, yes, we want to do this, that also is very good in America because it's kind of like a marketing edge. So
okay, right, yeah, yeah,
people, and America's like that. It's a commercialized system and a commercialized country. And if Memorial Sloan Kettering's doing it, maybe we should do it. And that can go in your favor.
right, right. It's rare to hear that the American system is uh adaptable and quick, right? Because it's in some regards, right? The facilities can be, they have more control. We're not
Yeah.
generally a quick adopting medical system,
I
right?
guess, I mean, I think the whole system is changing. Although, look, this is the home of the entrepreneur, and this is the home
Hmm?
of innovation.
Yep.
And I think that's the strength of America.
Right.
And of course, it's going to be challenged by the next phase because the American health system is probably going to lose a lot of money on the next round of budget cuts. But it's always been a country where it's welcomed innovation. It's tried to strive to be the best, and certainly in
Right.
the research world, it has all of that.
Right. There's changes on the horizon, I think.
Yeah.
There are some places, some countries in Europe, for example, that adopt things much quicker, and people have to go over there for treatments and so for newer things sometimes.
Yeah,
So
there is there is some traffic in that direction. I would say there's more traffic comes this way from
right,
people who are in health systems. National health systems often can't afford the most expensive treatments. So,
right,
if you take
right,
yeah, so some of the like really expensive treatment that only the big established, if you take something like proton beam therapy, if you like, if you know anything about science, radio in the radiography world or radiotherapy world, proton beam therapy is the most expensive thing. You have to have it's like a nuclear bunker type of thing to hold it, and it's really, really expensive. Well, in America, I don't know, they've probably got maybe 50 of these. In the UK, before I left, I think they just managed to afford one.
hmm,
So,
wow,
that's the health system, that's where a
right,
national health system doesn't have the speed to be able to, or the money even, to be able to get to where you can do with a very rich establishment like the MD
right,
Anderson, which, had a proton beam therapy set up as soon as it was invented.
right.
So
Yeah, you're right.
it's interesting.
Technologically, yes, yeah,
Worked in the two
we're in the
systems. They
forefront.
both have their strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, Simon. I often like to ask people a question, right? Something that happened in the last 12 months that changed their life or something like that. But I think you have a story that you can share about Phoenix. Um,
Do, and I really want to share this story because I hope that your listeners will find this interesting. Because it's a personal story about a young man by the name of Grayson Briggs, but it very well illustrates why Teen Cancer America does what it does. So Grayson Briggs was a typical kind of Phoenix teen, 14, 15, 14-year-old who was he was a great sportsman, a great character. Girls loved him, boys loved him, mums loved him. He was just an all-rounder. And he was in the school ice hockey team. That was his big thing. He was a big follower of the Phoenix Coyotes, who I think are now a Utah Mammoths. But anyway, he was, a big ice hockey fan, and he was really good at it himself as well. And then 2 days after he was 15, he got diagnosed with cancer. And he got diagnosed with a pancreatic cancer. Now, that I can't tell you how rare that is for a teenager to get
right.
pancreatic cancer. That's an old guy's disease. People in their 60s, 70s,
Hmm.
80s get pancreatic cancer. So this is a teenager who got pancreatic cancer, and he was, of course, admitted to a pediatric hospital. Now, that pediatric hospital struggled to know how to treat that because they don't have that.
Right. No, see that one.
Very unusual for them. It's not their fault. It's just the way things are. They're not used to seeing that. And so it was a challenging cancer for them to have to think about dealing with for a young person. I was lucky enough to have a connection made to me through the family, and I got to know them. I loved the family, and I did my own research on who would be a good person for them to get a second opinion from. And I found a guy in Utah, at Salt Lake City, a guy called Dr. Mark Lewis, who's not only a fantastic oncologist who I know, but an all-round great person. And also, he had had the same cancer when he was younger. So
Oh, wow.
this is like the perfect person for this family. And I introduced them, and it enabled them to have. He had to still go to a pediatric hospital, but Mark Lewis was able to work with the pediatric team at that hospital
Okay.
to help them do the best that they can for him. And during that time, I know that the family were so appreciative of Dr. Lewis's
Sure.
involvement because of his knowledge, his empathy for everything that he'd been through, and his ability to support the pediatric team in what was a very difficult time. Very sadly, just before his 16th birthday, Grayson died. There wasn't anything more that all the things that could have been done for him were done for him. And he died just before his 16th birthday, which is tragic. But by that time, he'd got to know Clayton Keller, who was like the top player in the Phoenix Coyotes team, and they had got engaged, and they were, they were doing stuff for him during his treatment time and getting him to matches. And Clayton Keller even came to his funeral, which was wonderful. But his experience is everything about why Teen Cancer America is needed. So he
Right.
was in a hospital where they weren't sure how to treat his cancer. So he needed an adult cancer input to that. He was also isolated at his age because most of the other patients there were much younger. And so, the need for sort of psychological support and people of his own age around him was really important. And he couldn't get
Right.
that easily at the pediatric hospital. He relied a lot on his family and friends for that support.
Right.
Um,
Those
and
are those are precious moments too.
the precious moments, and so his family are wonderful people, really amazing people. And even now, his mom still has an annual birthday party for him and invite all his friends come along. And the first party she made him SpongeBob cake, and the next one he was doing V-Bucks cakes for them. But so his life kind of he lives on really
Right.
in the minds of others. But his story was as a Phoenix story and as a story that is indicative of why Teen Cancer America is important.
Right.
He's
And it's the people that can come
people.
together and make
Yeah.
that impact.
So, that's why we want to bring those pediatric and adult places, hospitals and teams and experts together because they can do much better for this age group.
Right.
We
Yeah.
will see more young people with better outcomes and more of them surviving than they
Right.
currently are because of that joint expertise.
Right. Right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Simon.
Not at all. It's my pleasure, and I've that is Grayson's. His family gave me the permission to use his real name, and some people from Felix, because there was quite a bit of publicity around him and his death. Some people have watched your podcast may well have heard of him, but
Right.
he was
Right.
a
Okay.
striking. And actually, we got him to meet Roger Daltrey as well. That was good. So Roger
Oh, yeah.
Daltrey is now Sir Roger Daltrey.
Yeah, he's knighted now.
He's knighted, and not that long before Grayson died, we got him to a show that the Who were doing in LA, and he got to meet Roger and spend some time with him. And Roger is always great. He's always great with young people, and he's wonderful with the families as well. So we got everybody to meet him and gave him a bit of a thrill in the last week
Nice.
of his life.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Simon. Are there any upcoming teen cancer initiatives in the next year or so that you want to announce or share?
Sure. So we do have a very prestigious event that's coming up in October, which is quite exclusive in a backyard where, in fact, the Who are playing. It's a thousand. It's only for 1,000 people in a large backyard, I have to say, of somebody's
Yeah.
Pacific Palisades, but it's a proper Who show, and we'll have some other guest artists there as well. It could be the last show that the Who play on American soil because
Oh, wow.
it's the end of their tour.
Okay.
So, but we have
That's a special event for sure.
a very special event, yeah. We have events around the country. Although we're based in LA, we do have events elsewhere. We have a beautiful art event that will be in September in New York. We have a golf event in New Jersey that's run by a family whose son had cancer when he was a teenager, and he survived. He's done really well, but that's a fabulous kind of mixture of golf and rock music together. So we have an event there. So yeah, I mean, please look at our website for anything that's coming up. It's teencanceramerica.org. That's teencanceramerica.org. Please take a look at that and check out what's going on. We would be delighted to have more supporters. And, we're always happy to if people have ideas for events, in your area, they want to get involved and help us in any way, just get in touch. I'd be happy to put them in touch with the team, and we can do something down your way. We'd love to. We actually haven't yet developed a facility or program at a Phoenix hospital, and we'd love to do that. So
Okay.
if you have contacts and think that we could do something there, then yeah, let's do it. We can raise the money, we can make it happen, and we'll have this adolescent and young adult service for the young people of the Phoenix region.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. I have some contacts and stuff. I'll more than happy to make some introductions and see if I can help at all.
Please do. Please do.
Okay. Well, wow. This is a very meaningful one for me. I lost my father to pancreatic cancer, and his father. So it's something that's very dear to me, and kids too, young adults, kids. That's always hard. Very meaningful and important program. Thank you very much, Simon, for sharing it.
It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you, and thank you so much. And I wish you and all your listeners and watchers a success in their lives and healthy, and stay healthy and fit. And
Yes.
we'll look forward to and please do get in touch. I'm very happy for anybody that really wants to get in touch. You have my email, Tim. If somebody is seriously involved, you can give them my email. Please do.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
I'll start to become a listener of your show.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tim.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Thank you again, Simon. We appreciate you sharing the Teen Cancer America and your story.
Okay.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.